Greetings everybody, Kind of Games Online. Welcome back to more Lost Dimension. Last time, we strengthened our bond with George, and in this episode, we're going to be reading some of the tips files. Now, if you wanted story progress for this episode, you're not getting it, unfortunately. And originally, I was going to read you all of the characters and lore tips files. However, when I started recording the characters tips file, I couldn't record anymore because of copyright infringement for some reason. So, for this episode, we're only going to be reading through the lore. And there's not much to the lore. So let's start with Order, Steel Directive. Order, Steel Directive, Pillar Infiltration Mission. Objective, infiltration of the pillar that appeared on XXXX. Of the sealed units currently on guard against international terrorist attacks, all units assigned operatives with designated gift class abilities are hereby deployed to the pillar to enter immediately upon arrival. Though the special operatives are intended as our primary weapon against the end, many of them lacking practical military experience. Other operatives must support them with all available resources and are required to prioritize the survival of these special members in moments of crisis. No information available at this time on the internal structure of the pillar. Given the time constraints, all units should prepare for combat immediately upon arrival, and enter the site as soon as possible. Units arriving first are ordered to infiltrate the pillar as planned and scout the immediate vicinity to secure the area and perform reconnaissance for the benefit of incoming reinforcements. Next up is GSSN, Terrorist Fire at Military Essential Facility. XXXX 2025 GSN headline: Terrorist attacks continue. The world in crisis? Before dawn on XXXX, a series of explosions struck a key military facility in Washington, D.C. The self-proclaimed mastermind behind the attack was a terrorist who calls himself The End. A few hours before the bombs detonated within a central building on the facility grounds, the exterminist addressed the world's population in a speech broadcast across international channels. The speech suggested elements of narcissistic personality disorder and hinted at imminent action based on myopic motives. Upon confirmation of the end as a threat, however, world leaders unanimously agreed to classify the terrorist as an international fugitive, charged with attack on a federal facility. The bombing took place soon after his address to the world's nations. Throughout his manifesto, the terrorist made repeated references to something called the Pillar. Officials are moving ahead under the assumption that the term is a codename for his plan. Investigators have suggested that the world was used in reference to the location involved in this case. However, the building in question was roughly 24 meters in height, comparatively small, causing some doubt its relevance to the End's pillar. As investigation continues, the military is putting into action a defensive plan involving likely bombing targets based on the End's broadcast, including skyscrapers and other buildings of notable height. James Hilton, the world's leading expert in criminal psychology, was reached by a GSN correspondent for comment. In the interview, he expressed that the term pillar may be more chosen for its metaphorical significance rather than relating to literal physical height, and that there is a possibility the End is hinting at intended attacks on specific government facilities chosen as symbols of political and financial power. Hilton also noted that targets are often switched at the last moment by extremists under duress, due to failed terror operations or unexpected complications. Alright. Next is GSN, Terrorist Fire at Skyscraper. XXXX 2025, GSN headline: Terrorist attacks continue. The world in crisis. Before dawn on XXXX, a series of explosions struck a skyscraper in upstate New York. The self-proclaimed mastermind behind the attack was a terrorist who calls himself The End. A few hours before the bombs detonated within the upper floors of the Metropolitan Building, the exterminist addressed the world's population in a speech broadcast across international channels. The speech suggested elements of narcissistic personality disorder and hinted at imminent action based on myopic motives. Wait. This is basically the same... Aren't they basically the same article? More or less. Okay, so it looks like a lot of the... Oh. This one's different. But basically, you get the idea. The end started a bunch of terrorist attacks. Firing at essential military facilities, firing at skyscrapers, bombing government buildings, and bombing diet buildings. Next, we're gonna go past those. Research document past meteor records. Case 1. Tunguska event. 6:30, 1908, 7:02 a.m. A massive explosion equivalent in force to the detonation of a hydrogen bomb occurred in the air above the Tunguska River. Or Tunguska River. Tunguska? Whatever. In West Siberia. An estimated 10 megatons of explosive energy was released in the event. A mushroom cloud appeared in the wake of the explosion, and an area of forest roughly 30 kilometers in radius was affected by the resulting fire. No definite meteoric remnants were discovered in the area, and as of yet, there is no decisive evidence to deem the event a product of meteoric activity. However, based on data gathered from the site of the event and the empirical evidence, a hypothetical meteor would have been anywhere between 3 to 70 meters in size. Case 2. Sakhalin meteorite. 2/12/1947, around 10 a.m. During the Soviet era, and approximately 440 kilometers northeast of Vladivostok, an explosion occurred in the air above the Sakhalin Mountains. The resulting sound and light of the explosion was observable over a 300 kilometer radius. Due to the meteor's incandescent, I'm terrible at pronunciations, meteor smoke was also observed at the site's atmosphere. The resulting meteorites that survived atmospheric entry formed a number of craters on the surface, the largest being a diameter of 26 meters and 6 meters deep. The source of the collision was an asteroid that had been orbiting the Sun, weighing approximately 900 tons. It collided with the Earth at 14 kilometers an hour and is thought to have exploded during entry of the Earth's atmosphere. So we get the idea that we have these cases of meteors. Maybe this has something to do with the story. We've got another meteor in 1960 and another one in 2013. Next is the Fate Materia. Fate Materia, File 1, XXXX, 1991. After long years of research, we have discovered that the planet had been repeatedly faced with the crisis of possible extinction, and each time, disaster has been averted by some kind of counteraction by the very planet itself. Like an immune system on a staggering cosmic scale, the Earth has created some kind of innate defense system to protect itself from threats. We've decided this miraculous element, this physical manifestation of the Earth's own will, shall be named Fate Materia. XXXX 1995. We've succeeded. After these long years of investigation, we have finally confirmed the physical existence of the theoretical miracle matter known as Fate Materia. The 12 materia, once dormant and scattered across the world, are now under close surveillance. Soon, they'll be used as a crucial research materials. Until now, these Fate Materia have been barely more than a myth we've been chasing. Now that they're in the hands of humanity, how we choose to use them may change the course of history forever. After all, they hold within them the power to change the world. Next up is Fate Materia File 2. XXXX 1998. We've come to understand that Fate Materia can be further categorized into two types. When an unexpected danger occurs, the causality alteration materia directly targets and changes the threat to the planet to prevent extinction. If some seemingly inevitable force pulls the world on the path to extinction, the causality reversion materia corrects the planet's course back to its original natural state. These two types of materia must have both played a part in ensuring the Earth's survival. XXXX 1998. We've reached a conclusion. In the end, it's better that the miraculous power we know as fate materia should remain out of mankind's hands. We have decided not to tamper with the materia's power any longer, and instead allow it to naturally act as the protective force of this planet, as it always has. Alright, now we have the core materia file. XXXX 2008. Each time the fate materia changes the course of earthly events, some kind of debt accumulates from the changes made to the world. We now understand that there exists something else as a counterpart to the fate materia, as a sort of vessel for this debt of causality. We have decided to call this a core materia. The core materia registers each time the world's fate is changed, and with each activation of the fate materia, the debt formed from it, or in other words, the possible futures and timelines erased through the change, accumulates, my god. As long as the world continues to exist, the debt will continue to expand. And finally, the pillar. XXXX 2012. We vowed to use any means at our disposal to save mankind from extinction through the meteor. One of those means was the core materia itself. If we are to reach a world in which we are safe from the meteorite's destruction, we need a bridge, a crossing, some kind of tangency by which the two worlds could connect. That crossing will be the TOF, the tower constructed with the core materia's elements. By using the core materia, the vessel for all the discarded possibilities of the world's history, the TOF should become an independent existence, unattached to any single individual world. All we can do now is pray for the project to be successful. XXXX 2014. We thought we completed the TOF. We thought it was over, but we could never have imagined this. Aberrant, violent creatures have started appearing inside the tower. It may be that they are dwellers of these discarded possibilities, the dead of the abandoned futures that have accumulated in the core materia. In other words, they could be seen as the vengeful spirits of those erased from existence. They show clear malicious intent to living, existing humans within the tower. All other things aside, they represent a definite threat to the project's success. For now, extra caution is advised. We need to form some kind of countermeasure against them. Well then, I think we learned a few things. Here's all the character files. If you want to read the character files for yourself, get the game for yourself or look it up. But if there's any sort of subject here that interests you, well, you can look at it yourself. But now we do have a better understanding of the situation. So here's the story as we know it. 10 years ago, there were 12 fate materia that were used somehow. And it seems that this pillar connects two worlds. But it seems there's also beings that aren't allowed to live. Maybe this has something to do with the two different fate materia that were mentioned. And there were also 12 fate materia, which we can assume that is the 11 sealed members and the end, based on what he said in our first fight with him. But there are still a bunch of empty holes in this entire idea. So, with all that done, next time, it's the finale. Next time on Lost Dimension, it is time for the final mission, Hal against Fate. As he enters the final battle, Sho places his trust in his friends and reaches for a new future. See you guys then!